In this video, I'm going to talk about streamlining game systems and what it's done to 8th edition Warhammer 40,000. So I did a video quite some time ago about streamlining wargaming rules systems. You can check it out up here. Pachow. And a lot of people, the comments were very interesting. There were a lot of people that were like, yeah, streamlining is good. I only have so much time in the day, that kind of stuff. And then there were other people who said, well, but if you dumb down the system too much, then I don't enjoy it. And I like a crunchy rule set. That's fun to me. And so there was a lot of back and forth that way, which totally makes sense because the answer to most things is usually, as you know from watching this channel in the past, it depends. However, with the new release of Warhammer 40,000, 8th edition, there's been a lot of streamlining. There has been a lot of tweaking the rules. The core rules system is in the book, maybe, 8 to 10 pages, something like that. If you bought the starter box, they gave you actually like an extra piece. You got the rules anyway in the starter box, but then you got this extra kind of like full, pull-out thing that's basically all the core rules. They've really stripped things down in this new 8th edition of Warhammer 40,000. And the question, I guess, is that, was it really a good idea? Predominantly, yes. Now, how you may judge what's good depends on your perspective, obviously, but in the perspective of a company that is publicly owned by shareholders, it's been real good for them. They have sold a lot of stuff because of the new 8th edition, and it's mainly because I see people all the time now in the game store that I haven't played a game of 40K against in a very long time, or I didn't even know played 40K, and either they never have, and now they're getting into it, or they're like, oh yeah, no, I used to play like in 3rd edition, and I stopped a long time ago. But now, I'm coming back because the rules are really cool, and it's easier, and I enjoy it, and blah, blah, blah. And that's pretty much, all across the board. There are people out there who don't like 40K in general for whatever reason, and that's fine. But for people who are vaguely interested in it, they've kind of gotten the itch. People who are, used to do it and got tired of all the different problems. I mean, say what you will, but 7th edition, the last edition of 40K, was dense. There was a lot going on there. Admittedly, the original 40K had a lot going on too, but really 7th edition got to the point where it was becoming quite bloated. There were so many different rule sets and so many different conflicting things. Tournament organizers had to go through all this work to try to figure out how to actually make it competitive and fair, and that's why they had to rip off the Band-Aid with 8th edition. So from the standpoint of, is it selling a lot more 40K stuff for Games Workshop? The answer is yes. I had a conversation during Gen Con with a Games Workshop employee, and he said it did a lot better than we thought, which is why right now it's difficult to find some specific things for 40K in your local shop, whether it's an independent shop or even actual Games Workshop shop. And it's difficult to find some of that stuff even on the website. They've done quite well with this new edition. It's brought people back into not just 40K, but it's brought people back into the hobby, which, me, I'm all about that. So in that situation, the streamlining, the thing that brought people back into it because it made the game perceived to be fun again, yeah, that was a big deal. That was a smart move on their part. Now, a lot of people have also, not a lot, some people have said they don't like the new edition of 40K because actually one comment I saw said that, well, now it's a baby game. I don't even really know what that means. But I think they're saying that because a lot of the rules have been simplified, therefore it becomes a simple game. And I have to disagree. When Age of Sigmar first came out, a lot of people had the same complaint. They said, we've turned it into a 4-page rules document. That kind of streamlining can't be good for the game. There's no strategy, and yet I keep seeing tournaments, and I keep seeing people who played Warhammer Fantasy back in the day, many of them who gladly now are playing Age of Sigmar, even in tournaments. When you pull a lot of the extra extraneous stuff out of there, and this is maybe just me, I've felt that really crunchy rules systems The main benefit that a really crunchy rule system has is that the person who knows the rules the best, every last little minute detail, that person is more likely to win because they'll remember some specific loophole that will allow them to win. Again, this is, your mileage may vary. This is my opinion, and this is something that I have come across many times playing different people over the years, where all of a sudden there's this thing that my opponent does, and I go, that's not, and you look through, and actually in the rules, once you dig through 28 different paragraphs, you find out, yeah, that's a thing you can do. When you take a lot of that stuff out, when you take those things out, the more kind of things that you take out of a rule system, the less loopholes very frequently you have available. This old chestnut gets thrown around a lot in any kind of tabletop gaming, but look at chess, look at Go. Very, very simple rule systems, yet, some of the most strategic games out there. I think that when you start to strip away the minutia of a lot of these different rules, you then have to really start to focus on the actual strategy. When I'm setting up my forces in 8th edition 40K, I have to remember, well, okay, my opponent has some Terminators. Terminators can deep strike in. I have to be very conscious of where I place my guys in the backfield so he doesn't have the 9-inch space to be able to drop his guys in, because there's no more scatter anymore. That when you want to deep strike in, you just deep strike in. So that kind of stuff, that's the strategy. That's where you have to figure things out. Constantly trying to remember, is that dangerous terrain, or what kind of thing do I have to do here? Can this happen? All those extra things, in my mind, when you strip a lot of that away, it allows you to focus a lot more on the actual strategy and a lot less on the actual rules, because really, rules aren't strategy. Now, the trick is, however, it doesn't seem to necessarily work for everyone. Privateer Press streamlined their rules, which was actually kind of part of the subject of the original video that this whole, the one that I pachowed. Mark III was supposed to be streamlined, and that didn't necessarily catch the audience, from what I understand. Sales have not been as crackers as they have with 8th edition 40K. That's then now caused Privateer Press to start working on a new skirmish game. Well, it's not a new game. It's the same game. It's the same stuff. It's kind of almost a little bit like Age of Sigmar Skirmish. Age of Sigmar Skirmish uses all the regular Age of Sigmar rules. It just kind of limits some of them, gives you some other little options, but you can only use certain models, certain units in the game. This is the same thing with the new Company of Iron, which is coming out soonish from Privateer Press. You can't use like big warjacks. You can't use warcasters. You can only use, I think, like jack marshals and smaller warjacks, and there's little things, and there's limits. And so the idea is to not necessarily streamline, although I think there's some of that, but it's really, again, it's trying to get new players into the game. Again, it goes back to that chess thing, you can teach a little kid chess, but you're probably going to be able to stomp them, if you really want to, over and over again until they get that strategic stuff kind of built up in their mind and can start to defend themselves. You shouldn't do that. Don't teach a 5-year-old how to play chess and then just stomp them, because that's just not nice, first of all. But the trick is that simplifying rules to a degree, obviously you don't want to completely just go down to we each roll a die and see who wins. That's not much of a game. War with the cards, that's not really a game specifically, because there's not a heck of a lot of strategy in that. But games like Go, which you have, each side pretty much, the black and the white, and the rules are pretty simple. Chess, again, rules are pretty simple, but it's what you can do with them that really makes the difference between a pretty interesting game design. Sometimes interesting game designs can get too bogged down in rules, versus a really good game design, which can be elegant and have simpler rules, but still have a really good effect. And when you do that, hopefully, you make it so that people enjoy it, and you make it so that, maybe they buy more of your product. And then that's really kind of, in the world of business, which we have to remember, tabletop wargaming is a business. When you sell more product, you're doing well.